Servus, kann ich ein bisschen Deutsch? Nee, grüß Gott. Okay, so I'm here, and I want to first thank the organization for setting this up. This is the second year, and I think it's pretty epic what they've created. And I think this is kind of speaks to my whole presentation today. How do people that take risks and actually try to do things today, they're going to move ahead. And people that are complacent and don't take risks and are scared to do things, they're going to fall back and become irrelevant. So that's what I'm talking about today, the shape of things to come. And basically, what's interesting with marketing is just a subset of business. So if you have nothing to do with marketing, and are here, I spoke to some ladies, and they're in the construction business earlier, and I'm bringing this up because I think marketing, like I said, is just a subset of business. And basically, when we talk about all these changes, it's not just in marketing and communications, it's really about business. So everything I'm talking today is really about business, and there's some marketing stuff in there, of course, branding, but businesses are the ones that are going to rise or fall as we see things move ahead. So I'm on the Twitter, I'm on the interwebs. That's my persona, Jeremy Tai. If you want to tweet how I'm doing or whatever, ask me a question, feel free. And people ask me, what do I do as a creative evangelist? So there's basically three things. So I inspire people, so I do presentations. And if you think about inspiration, basically what I'm trying to do is get people to imagine things, because imagination is the core, is the beginning of creativity, right? And that's why I'm a creative evangelist. So I try to get people to think about a world that is different than what they're doing. So in this case, this photo is from in Ecuador. Earlier this year I was in Ecuador, and what's interesting with Ecuador is they spent, I think, like a couple billion or 1.5 billion creating a city called Achay. It's like 30,000 people, and they're trying to focus on the STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and math. But I said the problem is when you start a city, there's nothing culturally happening there. So they have to have the STEAM, so the art part, because there's a reason to go there to get educated and do these things. But if there's no cultural outlet, then people are not going to stay. I create things, so I got to Google by doing 2 projects using their API so I can code, and my background is designer. And this is what I do at home. Let me just show you. So this is a face tracker, and it's tracking my face, and it tracks different things. So these are my eyebrows. So the first thing I did was I can tweet with my eyebrows, so when I raise my eyebrows, I can send a tweet. But in this case, this is a servo, right? I'm controlling the servo of the motor with my eyebrows. I'm interested in taking digital things and making them physical. Because right now, most everything we do right today it's staying in the digital realm. But when this next phase comes, the Internet of Things, or whatever people call it, that's when things are going to be interesting, because that's when technology disappears into the background, and that's when technology becomes interesting, when it's not interesting. And then the third thing I do is innovate, and what that basically means is I do workshops with clients like BMW or agencies or whatever it might be, and we try to take an idea and try to scale it and build it within the industry or the company. So these are 2 of my kids. I'm from Minnesota, and what they're doing is, this is in the Midwest, they're flying a drone. And I have a quadcopter. I wish I would have brought it, because Graz is quite beautiful, and I would have liked to film a little bit, so hopefully I can come back next year. But I'm showing this because if you think about kids, this is the mindset that you need to have in today's world. You have to have a mindset that is open. They call it a beginner's mind, or just like the Buddhist mind, just having an open mindset. And that's really key, and the people that do that best are the kids. So you have to kind of reach back into being a kid again and open your mind to doing things. So there's basically 2 things that are happening today, this big shift that's happening. It's one, digital technology infrastructures. So these things are scaling, and they're creating huge businesses, and they're also obliterating business as well. So that's one thing that's the cause of this big shift. The second thing is global long-term public policy shifts. So that means basically you have companies like Uber or Airbnb, so they have the infrastructure, and then they're opening up new markets and doing new things. In the past, we wouldn't have had an Airbnb because the infrastructure wasn't there, and you didn't have the globalization that we have today. So these 2 things are the biggest keys driving businesses today.
One day you wake up, and the world has changed.
So she says, one day you wake up and the world has changed. And for a lot of us, how many of you were born after 1980? 1980. So you guys are, I'd say about 2/3 of you. So you guys know, you guys have always had the internet. So for you, it's not a big deal. It's something you've come to know and something you expect. For all of us that were born before that, the internet is new and it's kind of scary and all these things are happening. But that's where the problem is in marketing and businesses. That's where a lot of these people are sitting in Vorstand, in the director's role. These people that are older have a different perspective on technology, and that's the hard thing to do. How do you get people that are typically not too keen on change and doing something new to change? And that's what companies have to do to survive. So I'm interested in not just technology, but behavioral changes as well. So I'm going to just show you 3 behavioral changes. So one is this idea of status updates. It used to be when you slept with someone, your bed partner, whoever that might be, you woke up and you asked them, how did you sleep? What did you dream about? But now you wake up and people are checking their Facebook status or Twitter or whatever it might be. But that's also shifting. That's shifting to the idea of instead of looking what other people are doing, you look and see how well you slept based on your apps or whatever it might be, quantified self. So all these things are shifting really quickly, this exponential change. Another idea is something you see quite often, you see here as well, selfies. Selfies have pretty much taken over the autograph. People don't really want to autograph anymore. It used to be if you met someone like Michael Schumacher or whatever it might be, you would want to go get his autograph. But now people just want a photo with them. And that's shifting to dronies. And a dronie is a quadcopter with a camera on it, and it's taking a photo. And I'm going to show this for Maximilian there, because this is in, I go to the US every year with my family. And this is in Minnesota, this is in Duluth. So this is a dronie. I think it's just a lot more. Video says a lot more, and that's why video is going to be so. If you're doing video now, you have a really great future because everything's going to be video when we move ahead. So that's in Duluth. And the last trend that's really popular, and that's something that's happening, is FOMO. And I guess some of you know what FOMO means. It's an acronym for fear of missing out, and that basically means when you go eat lunch with your partner, or your friend, or whoever it might be, your colleague, and you're trying to have a conversation with them, you're trying to keep their attention, they're always checking their phone because they're scared something else is happening somewhere else. So they're always checking their phone. That's FOMO. And this idea of attention, that's what all marketing people have to work on. How do you gain people's attention today when there's so many other things out there? So that's not really changing that much. It's becoming more extreme. So here's a very extreme case of FOMO. And that's where we're heading. Either he's checking something or he's taking a photo or something. We don't know. But that's where we're heading today, a society where our attention is the number one thing that you can actually do and actually present to someone. Undivided attention, that's really key. So what that means, there's this increasing disconnect between 2 different things. One, the way the world is evolving, which is all these cultural shifts that I was just showing you, and technology. And 2, the way businesses are operating. And these way the businesses are operating are based on 20th century models. So let's take a look at this. First, 50 million users. This is kind of a big deal. If you have 50 million users, it's a big deal. Radio took 40 years. Television, 10 years. iPhone, 3 years. YouTube, 6 months. And that shows, I think it's a great demonstration. It illustrates how fast change is happening today. If you have a network or you have a product or something, what you're trying to do is get users. And if you can get these users, then it's going to be exponentially, perhaps, successful. Another indicator of these changes, media platform market value in billions. So these are US companies, media companies. But if you look at media companies today, the new ones, LinkedIn, and these are all billion-dollar companies. They call them unicorns in Silicon Valley. So any company that is worth $1 billion is a unicorn, or in German, Einhorn. Twitter, obviously Facebook's worth quite a bit. I know there's a Facebook guy here. And then kind of the elephant in the room, Google, we're pretty well valued. And that just shows also people will put their attention to things that they find valuable. And in this case, the stuff that's faded out, those old medias are not valuable to a lot of people, and that's why they're losing users and losing money. The third thing is this question of reach. You always get this in marketing. You know, we want to do TV because we have a bigger reach and whatever it might be. But the fact is, reach is based on contextual things. So if you take fashion, for example, let's say Gucci. You have this, Gucci does a one-page ad in all these magazines. But in general, if you look at the new media channels like Instagram and YouTube, they have 2 times as much reach as these magazines do. And these things on the left, those are where people are really active in. A magazine, I'm not saying we're going to kill, you should not do print, but I think you should reconsider, if you're working in a market, reconsider where you put your money and be smart about it. Don't put money where you've always done it because that's the way you've always done it, because that's not smart. But that's easy and that's comfortable. Last version, or last indicator, you guys know this guy. Grumpy Cat. Interesting. Grumpy Cat, basically, a waitress owned Grumpy Cat. She said, yeah, I have this really unusual cat. She shared it with some friends, and then people didn't believe her. Then she made a video of it, and she put it on YouTube. And now this is the outcome of Grumpy Cat. So evolving earnings, 2 years. Gwyneth Paltrow, 29 million. Grumpy Cat, 100 million. And that's what I mean by attention. People focus their attention on things that they find interesting. Grumpy Cat, you couldn't have thought of Grumpy Cat when Grumpy Cat, like an agency couldn't have thought, okay, let's create some unusual cat and just put it out there. They could have, but they would have taken risk, and then it would have been tough. But this also basically illustrates what I mean by this attention. All the attention is based on Grumpy Cat. And as you can imagine, the waitress quit her job, and now she's taking care of Grumpy Cat. So this quote here, and I want to show this. I'm showing this because this is a fact. I think a lot of times organizations get stuck doing things because they've always done it that way. They do things based on analogy. And I have a quote here I wrote on a napkin. Because last year, or the year before, if you go to Stuttgart, this is a Mercedes-Benz museum. You take the elevator upstairs, it's a beautiful museum, and then you get out of the elevator, and there's this white horse. And by the white horse, down below, there's this quote, and it says, I do believe in the horse. The automobile is no more than a transitory phenomenon. Emperor Wilhelm II. And what he's saying basically is he did not think the automobile was going to be a big deal. But in the end, it was a big deal. Because you think about it, all of a sudden, it used to be back then, we had relationships with horses. That means you had a horse because it got you from A to B. You used it for farming or whatever. But today, the relationship with horses are based on hobby and rich people. Rich people that play polo, they have a relationship with horses. But most of us do not have a relationship with horses. Same with blacksmiths, people that do metal. There's no relationship there. So I think these people that dealt things in the beginning, before it's ever even taken apart, you have to take them with a grain of salt and say, let's just see how it plays out and see how it works out. So let's stay with this analogy, the car. If you think about the car, it hasn't changed that much in the past 100 years. Or, this is the Mercedes-Benz convertible, right? 3-wheeler. Here, same thing. That has not changed that much. But the people that are outsiders, the people that are on the edges of things, those are the people you want to watch. So this was in 1933, and when I was in university and school, I was really a big fan of Buckminster Fuller, and he designed this car in 1933. It's basically a space-age car of the time, 1933. Think about that. And it was big. You could put like 6 or 7 people in there. It was quite strange in its outlook. But look at this video here. This is pretty cool. And you get a good reference of what he did at that time. Parallel parking, easy. And what's interesting with this last screenshot is the cars. Look at the cars compared to that Maxian car. It's a total different game. Unfortunately, it didn't pick up enough. But my point there is showing that is you have to have people on the outside with a different perspective working in your organizations to try to do things. Otherwise, you're just going to produce the same stuff over and over again. Just like this conference, these people, the guys that organize it, they didn't have any reference before, or they just kind of built it up last year out of pretty much nothing, out of an idea. They took the risk and they did it. And now all of you guys are here today, and I think that's amazing. We have to celebrate those people. So one other thing for companies today, I think you need to have a really strong purpose, a mission statement, a purpose, a higher reason for working somewhere. Like the moderator said, the Jesus, that's probably the best reason people believe in things. Because we want a reason to believe that there's something more than just us. You have to give us a reason to believe. And really great companies today will give you that reason, and it'll be in their mission statement. So this one, does anyone know what company this is? Yep, Tesla. And think about that. Elon Musk started Tesla after selling PayPal, and he was an outsider. He had no experience building cars. And in my opinion, Tesla is pushing the car industry forward. If it wasn't for Tesla, there would be no electric cars at BMW, no electric cars at Mercedes, and no electric cars in the way that we think of it. Obviously, Honda did it before, and maybe some other cars. But what he did is he took the electric car idea and made it sexy and desirable. And that's another thing. That's why design is so important. It's not just about technology today. It's about design and the experience of it. And this is a really sexy car. If I had the means, I could buy one, but if I don't live in a home, and you need if I was in the U.S., I'd have one of these, but in Germany, I don't. So I'm showing these because it's not just about the car, it's about the ecosystem. So there's apps, of course, he uses Android or Apple. There's the watch that's coming out, there's a prototype watch. And great companies today will also experiment, they'll try things out, and they'll know there's a risk doing it, but the payoff is even worth it. It's worth it trying these things out. And this is a diagram showing that I think companies, really smart companies, are going to be functionally integrated. And what that means basically is it's not just about the car down below, but it's about the infrastructure, the platform. It's really about a platform. So the platform is they have these superchargers in Europe and in the US, and now they just came out with the battery for the home. And we don't know where they're going further, but it's a platform, it's an ecosystem. And I think really great companies will take this and move further with this idea of ecosystems. It doesn't mean you have to create stuff yourself. You can use existing stuff, but you have to expand outward and not just be vertically integrated. Another example, this is pretty easy. This is, what company is this? That's right, Google. I think someone said Google. Maybe not, I said Google. So Google, that's also a company that is really focused on platforms and doing things in the platform way. So if you look at our ecosystem, it looks like this. And most recently, we just bought Nest. We've bought other companies in between. But all of a sudden, it's not just about search. It's not just about the desktop. And that's something we're struggling with just between us. The biggest struggle we have right now and the biggest priority we have now at Google is mobile. Because we make most of our money through AdWords, and that's all based on desktop. But as everything moves, shifts to mobile, if your company isn't focused on mobile first, then you're also going to have problems, in my opinion. Like us, we are struggling with mobile a little bit, and that's why it's the #1 priority for Larry Page, that we all really focus on mobile. So last example, which one's this company? Nike. And we were talking about this last night. The difference between Nike and Adidas is Nike speaks to everybody. Oh, there's my music. I got to really hurry now. Okay, let me hustle through these. So Nike, ecosystem. You know this slide. That's the two shifts. 20th century companies. Oh, I got to really hustle now. Marketing as a campaign. I'm going to click through these real quick. So I think great companies will be platform focused, like YouTube, like Google, or whatever it might be. So if you think about the marketing, business model as campaign versus business model as a platform. And when the platform, it's about access, it's about attracting people and doing things, and it's about the potential, giving people the potential to do things. So I go back to this slide. I'm really close to being done. Status quo culture, I'm going to click through this. The problem, even my phone's ringing. I think my wife's calling me. So the problem with big companies is there's no appetite for risk. So I'm just going to click through this really quick. And this is true. So when you work in a company, you want to create teams that are really small, like 6 to 8, 6 to 10 people at the most. So 3 learnings. Number 1, first principles. Start for first principles, not analogy. Number 2, team diversity. It's not just gender, but age, experience, and point of view. And number 3, we're really close, disruption. Find ways to conquer complacency. It's getting louder. We're good. Thank you.